What's up, Cosorians? I'm Chef Margaret, and today I'll be making cherry hand pies in the air fryer. They're so easy and fun to make and are bursting with fresh cherry flavor. Hit the subscribe button to become part of the Cosori community and to be notified every time we upload new recipe videos, which we do every week. Hit the bell icon. So the first thing that we're gonna do is make our cherry filling for the hand pies. So I've got 12 ounces of fresh cherries that have been pitted. If you don't have fresh cherries available for you, you can totally use frozen cherries, or you can do a different type of fruit like blueberries, strawberries, apples, peaches, pears. So many different fruits would go well with this. So I've got 12 ounces of cherries. I'm gonna pop it into this saucepan. And I've got a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar and 1 tablespoon of fresh lemon juice and just a pinch of salt. Salt always is good, it helps brings out the flavor and everything. And I'm just gonna give this a stir, make sure everything is combined. And then I'm gonna place it over the stove top over medium-high heat. We're gonna bring it to a boil and reduce it to simmer for about 5 minutes. Until the cherries have broken down. And then we're going to use some cornstarch and almond extract, and we're gonna use the cornstarch to help thicken the filling and the almond extract to just give it a really nice cherry almond flavor. So now I'm gonna head over to the stovetop. All right, so the cherries have come to a boil and I've reduced the heat so that it can just simmer. And so now I'm just gonna start kind of like mashing the cherries with a fork just to release more juice from the cherries. Perfect. And now I've got 1 tablespoon of cornstarch that I'm gonna put into this bowl. So I'm gonna take about 2 to 3 tablespoons of this cherry juice mixture and add it to the cornstarch and whisk it until that's smooth. So. Just gonna kind of tilt it, get some juice, add a couple tablespoons to this. And we wanna do this because whisking the cornstarch separately will help prevent any clumps forming in the cherry filling. Right, so that's good. And I made a little mini whisk, and I'm just gonna whisk it all until no clumps remain. That looks awesome. And now this gets poured into the saucepan. And what's gonna happen is the mixture is gonna thicken really fast. So you want to be stirring it constantly when you add the cornstarch mixture. And you can see it's already thickened. It's quite amazing how fast it happens. And so now I'm gonna turn off the heat so there's no more heat remaining. And now I'm gonna add my almond extract. I have 1/2 teaspoon of almond extract. And that gets added in, and we just stir it to combine. Ooh, I love the smell. As soon as the almond extract hits the filling, you can smell it. It smells so good. Awesome. So now I'm going to let this cherry filling cool before we move on to assembling the hand pies, because you don't want anything super hot touching the puff pastry. So I recommend putting this in like a shallow dish or something and popping it into the fridge or freezer, and it should cool down really fast in no time. So I've got my cherry filling here that's cooled down, and so now we can start assembling the hand pie. So I've got 2 sheets of frozen puff pastry, just store-bought, that I've defrosted, and I'm gonna roll them out to about roughly a 9 by 12 inch rectangle. And so I've made sure to flour my surface area here because you don't want the puff pastry to stick. And just gonna roughly stretch it out a little bit more. Perfect. And the key to making sure your dough or your puff pastry doesn't stick is just to keep moving it. Just keep moving it around keep flouring it and it won't stick on you. Awesome. So I've got one rolled out and I'm gonna start cutting out circles. So I have a 3-inch diameter cutter here. And so I'm just gonna start cutting circles out of the puff pastry. If you don't have like a 3-inch round cutter, you know, so many times like glasses or, you know, bowls that you have are around 3 inches and you can just outline it and cut it around with a knife. Awesome, and just keep going. All right, so now I'm gonna transfer my puff pastry circles onto a wax paper lined baking sheet. So I'm just gonna place them on here. It's just gonna make it easier to assemble them all. Perfect. So I've got half on my baking sheet and half on the floured surface still. So we're just going to fill half of the puff pastry circles with the cherry filling because the other half are meant to go on top of them. So to that I'm gonna add roughly 2 teaspoons of the cherry filling onto each puff pastry circle. And you wanna try and get it into the center just so that it doesn't make a mess and ooze out when you add the topping to it. All right, so now I'm gonna take my egg wash. I have 1 egg that I've just whisked until it's all whisked together. And I'm going to brush my egg wash along the edges of these puff pastry circles. And this is gonna help when I enclose the top puff pastry so that it's gonna stick together and hold. So I'm just gonna continue doing that with all of my puff pastry circles. All right, so now we're just gonna take our remaining puff pastry circles and I'm gonna plop them on top and just gently press the edges together. And then I'm going to take a fork, and I like to have a little bowl of flour handy. Helps the fork not stick to the puff pastry. I'm gonna go around and just enclose both puff pastry circles together with the fork. So I'm gonna continue doing that with the rest of my puff pastries, and then I'm gonna pop them in the refrigerator to chill for 20 minutes. And that's important because you don't want puff pastry to ever get too warm before it bakes. And so you want it to stay as cold as possible. So popping it in the fridge for 20 minutes just to make sure it's nice and cold before going into the air fryer will make sure that they come out perfectly. All right, so my hand pies have chilled in the refrigerator for 20 minutes, and in the meantime, I also preheated the air fryer to 350 degrees. So it's ready to go. So before we pop them in, I'm gonna brush the tops with egg wash and cut a vent into each hand pie. So I'm just gonna brush the top all over with my egg wash. This is gonna help them get beautifully golden on the outside. And then I take my knife and I'm gonna cut, you could just do a 1-inch vent. The purpose of cutting a vent is to allow all the steam to escape from the hand pies, which is important. Awesome. I sometimes like to make a little X. Helps and makes them look like kind of pretty when they come out. But you can just cut a 1-inch vent from them if you like. So I'm just gonna continue brushing the egg wash on top of all of my hand pies. Now it's time to pop these in the air fryer. So my air fryer is preheated to 350. So I'm just going to carefully place my hand pies into the basket. Using a spatula is very helpful. And I think about 5 to 6 fit in the air fryer basket comfortably so that they're not touching. So I would recommend doing these in a couple batches. Awesome. And then these go in at 350 for 8 minutes. Awesome. All right, the cherry hand pies have finished baking in the air fryer, so let's see how they look. Oh, they look beautifully golden and puffed. They just look amazing, and they only cooked in 8 minutes. So I'm going to transfer them to a wire rack so that they can cool down completely. And I'm going to finish air frying the remaining hand pies that I have. They're in the refrigerator just hanging out, so they're staying cool before I air fry them. And then once they're cooled completely, we're gonna glaze them. All right, all of my cherry hand pies are cooled completely and they look so beautiful, and now it's time to glaze them. So I have 1 cup of powdered sugar, and to that I'm gonna add 1 tablespoon of whole milk and half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And that just gets whisked until all smooth and combined. All right, that looks nice. And if for some reason it's too thick or too thin, if it's too thin, just add a tablespoon more of powdered sugar, whisk, and see if that looks good. If it's too thick, add just a splash more of milk and thin it out as needed. So now I'm just going to just glaze these. Just gonna drizzle the glaze on top. Look how pretty they look with the glaze. I love it. So I'm just gonna continue glazing my hand pies, and you ideally want to let the glaze cool and harden completely before you serve them. All right, our cherry hand pies are cooled completely. The glaze is cooled, and I'm so excited to try one. So let's see if we can, oh, they're flaky. Look at the inside. These are so good. You can see the layers of the puff pastry. They're so golden and flaky. And then the sweet cherry filling is tart, and it's got a hint of almond from the almond extract, and they're perfectly balanced, not too sweet. They're so delicious. And so I wanna know, what's your favorite filling for hand pies? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.